As we reported earlier in the show, the city of Ottawa says it's seeing an increase in complaints about aggressive dog behavior. Between 2019 and 2022, the city saw an increase of more than 100 complaints about everything from dog scratches to dog bites, raising the question, who is responsible if you suffer an injury from a dog bite? Let's bring in Nainesh Kotak with Kotak Personal Injury Law for more. Does it surprise you that the city is reporting more aggressive dog behavior since the pandemic?
No, it doesn't at all. The reality is dog ownership increased significantly throughout the country during the pandemic. And we saw, in fact, a lot of new dog owners who haven't had a history of owning dogs. So I think just percentage-wise and by the nature of who the owner is, we've seen certainly a greater amount of attacks and aggression from dogs resulting in injury.
Okay, now who is responsible if a dog attacks or injures a person? What are the legal repercussions?
Right, so in Ontario, we have what's known as the Dog Owners Liability Act. In fact, most provinces have a similar type of legislation. It puts strict liability on the owner of the dog. And it's interesting that the owner is not defined just as the person who is listed or registered. It could be anyone who exercises control over that dog or harbors that dog. That could even extend, for example, to dog sitters or dog walkers as well.
Okay. What sort of injuries do you typically see?
You know, we've seen some pretty horrific injuries from dogs. We've also seen very minor ones. Often there are facial injuries from bites or defensive wound injuries to arms. We've had cases of people simply being knocked over by aggressive dogs, so they have orthopedic injuries from the fall resulting from the attack as well. We also see, interestingly, and probably expected as well, is psychological injury. Someone who has been attacked by a dog often develops post-traumatic stress disorder or anxiety around animals as well. So there's often a combination, I think, of both physical and psychological injuries that occur when a dog attacks and someone is hurt.
Okay, now what are the next steps should you take if you are bitten by a dog?
Obviously, I think the first is medical attention. The bites are never clean, obviously, and I think going to a hospital is important, making sure there's the tetanus shot and getting it all cleaned. But beyond that, in terms of the legal aspect, I think quickly trying to determine who the owner of the dog is. Maybe there's witnesses who can provide statements in terms of what they saw as well. I would recommend getting the police involved as well, because the Dog Owners Liability Act provides for penalties as well to dog owners whose dogs bite others or attack others. In fact, there are provincial offenses under the Dog Owners Liability Act where there could be a fine up to $10,000 for an individual or 6 months in jail, and other actions that authorities could take in terms of whether it be seizure or warnings or ordering of muzzling, etc. So I think it's important for the general public as well that a record is made of the dog attack to prevent it from happening to others. But also you want to take steps to ensure that you know who the owner is, that you get medical attention, and that you seek the appropriate office legal help if the dog bite is severe enough that the compensation is needed.
Are there any cases if you're injured by a dog bite and you can't locate the owner? What do you do when that happens?
We've seen that a lot, and sometimes it is a real uphill struggle. Related to this, you may have someone who's renting a home, so they're a tenant, and they're the ones who own the dog. They may not have insurance for that dog, so they could be personally liable. So there are situations where you can't find the dog owner, and you want to hire maybe investigators to talk with neighbors or have the police involved to ascertain where that dog came from and who owns it. You obviously need assistance there. But in terms of also, if you are the dog owner, I would encourage to have insurance, because you don't want to be personally responsible. Homeowners usually, they're going to have insurance, but they should tell their insurer they have a dog, and it won't cost lot more to have coverage for that. But tenants also should be very careful if you have a dog and have insurance as well, really to avoid any sort of personal liability, financial liability that could occur if your dog bit somebody.
That was Nainesh Kotak with Kotak Personal Injury Law. Thank you so much for joining us today.